The Laura Ingraham Show.
855-40-LAURA. We have a lot to get to on the program, including, delighted he's going to be with us, Ed Rollins. He's stopping by. And David Gergen, after he made those comments about me, he's coming? He's coming on? Wow. Well, he was fine. He said I was controversial. Well, that's fine. I have no problem for David Gergen to come on. Ed Rollins is going to give us the latest on what we could learn from the successful Republican transitions. And, well, he's just one of my favorite people, period. So it was fun to be on Fox News Sunday. I had a good time. But the team of radicals, this is what the left does. They take a phrase and they just beat it into the public consciousness relentlessly. At times it's brilliant. I mean, they don't have real substantive arguments because their policies have led to America in decline, and their policies have led to an American foreign policy that has deteriorated, an economy that has flatlined. We've declined in respect around the world. China's on the rise. Russia is ever more aggressive. But General Flynn went to a dinner hosted by Russia Today. So I guess Larry King is in on the conspiracy too, since he hosts a show on RT television. I don't watch RT television, but big deal. Mike Flynn is a phenomenal human being. And you know what I really think the left is afraid of? He's afraid of the fact that these guys are effective. He's afraid of the fact that General Flynn is respected by both veterans and active duty servicemen and women, brilliant when it comes to military intelligence. And of course, he was telling the truth about our war against ISIS on Capitol Hill when he testified, and Obama didn't like that. Ooh, no. No. Obama didn't want that truth coming out that at the time, I think it was back in 2013, 14, Flynn said, it's not going so well. So isn't that what we want from our military leaders? Aren't they supposed to tell the truth to the American public? But Obama didn't want that truth coming out. That was an inconvenient truth, to quote Al Gore. And they're considering General Mad Dog Mattis. You know, anyone with the nickname Mad Dog is going to be just probably at least interesting. But General Mattis, again, he will go down in history as one of the greatest Marine generals, without a doubt, of the last 50 years. Yeah, with no doubt in my mind. And people say it was kind of like a George Patton without perhaps some of the controversy. He has some colorful ways of phrasing things. But Mattis is just another patriot. I don't know if they're going to consider something else about defense or whether he has the managerial skills. It seems to me that getting to the position he got to, and we'll go through all the records of these talented men, you don't get to where he got with the respect that he garnered from across all the branches of the U.S. Military service without having an ability to manage people. I mean, I'd take some of these, true blue patriot military figures over these lifetime politicians any day of the week. And I would take them in hiring, civilian hiring for companies. I would take them. I've had some vets working for me as assistant producers and so forth, young guys who, remember Joe Villano, who was one of our great young producers. And Joe is, what a terrific human being he was. He was a submariner, went to Annapolis, just organized, comes from a great family, just terrific people. And so when Juan Williams comes back with his, it's not a team of rivals, it's a team of radicals. I don't recall, and maybe I'm misremembering, but I don't recall the radicals word used to describe Obama's czar appointments, including Van Jones when he was appointed. I don't recall any of that. I mean, as if Obama was reaching out to people who were diametrically opposed to his worldview to put them in his cabinet. I don't think so. Not really. So I hate the way when they do this to people. It is unfair and it's unwarranted. And we're going to go into the Jeff Sessions attacks that, well, I knew those would be coming. Jeff Sessions, by the way, being called, and some of the people from the Council on American Islamic Relations with its own dubious ties that have been investigated in the past. They're putting out all these people on MSNBC. That what's her name? Nasra Milou, I think that's her name. I might got it good. Tamra Milou, I can't remember her name. Anyway, she's on television, and she is just positively sneering hatred toward Trump and, by extension, all of his nominees. They're racist, misogynist, sexist, Islamophobic. You know, every ism and obic. She doesn't say they're Christophobic, but they say every obic and ism they're throwing out at Trump and all of his appointees. And someone like Jeff Sessions, first of all, who was U.S. attorney, he filed all these cases to desegregate the schools in Alabama. I just tweeted out a photo this morning of him standing shoulder to shoulder with John Lewis on the 50th anniversary in Selma of Bloody Sunday. But he also prosecuted the head of the state Klan, Henry Francis Hayes, when he abducted and killed Michael Donald, I think it was, this black teenager selected at random by Henry Francis Hayes. And Sessions made sure that he was going to be eligible for the death penalty. And when he was he ended up later being elected as Attorney General of the state of Alabama, he kept going on that case and followed through and made sure that Hayes was executed. So, and by the way, staying on this case, again, against he's a racist, let me tell you about Sessions, what he also did, which he didn't have to do. But he also, the fact that he did that and that he was so successful in taking the death penalty to the KKK leader, it also ended up in a $7 million civil judgment against the Klan, which effectively broke the back of the Klan in Alabama, which I love. And, of course, he supports school choice, which is, I think, the next great civil rights struggle of our time for young African-American children to be able to go to the same fancy schools that Obama's daughters go to or went to. And you know what I think about this? I think of one of the first things that Barack Obama did when he came into office in 2009, again, who went to the most esteemed schools, who went to Occidental, went to Harvard Law School, Columbia, and his kids were enrolled at Sidwell Friends School, uber elite school in Washington, D.C., of course, private school. And one of the first things Obama did was he decided not to fund, basically break the back of, he broke the back of, at least temporarily, the D.C. Opportunity Scholarship Fund, which was a piddly amount of money that the federal government allocated for school choice in the District of Columbia. So he's the great civil rights president, not allowing all these black families, not permitting them to go to private schools through this lottery system. And by the way, they line up around the block every year for this D.C. Opportunity Scholarship. He decided not to help them, to oppose that, because why? The teachers' unions. They're afraid of school choice. And yet Jeff Sessions, as a strong advocate for school choice, prosecuted the Klan and led to this big civil judgment, forced the schools, litigated the schools to make sure they desegregated, and he's the racist. This is the kind of thing that people hate about Washington, D.C. Good men, good patriots, and believe me, the women they put up, I'm sure they'll put up women in senior positions in the administration. They'll trash them as well. Oh, in that case, they're not real women. If you're not a liberal woman advocating for slaughtering infants in the womb, then you're not a real woman. When you break the glass ceiling, it doesn't really matter. You know, how many of these people were celebrating Kellyanne Conway running the most, one of the most successful surprise candidacies in the world in this campaign, first female campaign manager of a presidential campaign in the United States? I don't see Vogue magazine and certainly don't see Vanity Fair and all these other magazines that are giving lavish treatment to other women. I don't see them beating down her door. But that's the way it goes. 855-40-LAURA. Also, I have to say on LifeZette, great piece about that Hamilton scandal, which we're going to get to, with Raymond Arroyo. He'll be joining us later on. And I can't believe that. Is that right? I'm reading on LifeZette. Rocky, the film Rocky, turns 40 years old. That is terrifying. Oh, no, 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 no. Oh, and they're blasting Stephen Colbert on PopZet, on the LifeZet website. The late night hosts are just beside themselves. They really don't even know what to do at this point. Except one thing, for the most part, they've decided they're not going to be funny when it comes to Democrats. They're going to just essentially let them skate free. We're going to get into Hans von Spakovsky's piece on why Jeff Sessions is the perfect pick for Attorney General. And we have a lot more to get to. 855-40-LAURA. Remember, this is always your show, so we're going to try to get through as many calls as possible. Do you think maybe I was too tough on Juan Williams. Maybe I shouldn't have. Well, and when someone's attacked unfairly, it gets to me. I don't like it. And I think the left is going to try to bully these nominees of Donald Trump, but good luck bullying someone like General Flynn. Good luck bullying Jeff Sessions. But you know how they get. It's like a pack of wild dogs. You know what the wild dogs do? They can run for 50 miles a day. 50 miles. And when they kill their prey, they surround the prey. And so all the dogs, dozens and dozens of wild dogs, I've actually witnessed this in Botswana, they surround the prey and then they get closer and closer to the prey and then they viciously attack the prey. No other animal acts like the wild dog. They're almost extinct, but it's fascinating to watch them. But I think these wild dogs are going to have something to answer for at the end of all of this. 855-40-LAURA. Congrats to Jeff Sessions, of course, Mike Flynn, and Congressman Pompeo. All great choices. We expect more today from the Trump campaign. 855-40-LAURA. A reporter from the Hill. What's his name? What's this guy's name?
Jonathan Allen.
Jonathan Allen. Oh my God. So the Communist Party USA endorsed Hillary. So Hillary's a communist. Maybe that's not a good argument to make, because you'd all say, well, yeah. But I see what Tucker was getting at. There's some really good sound bites from that exchange. That was good. Let's go to Linda, Michigan, line 4. Linda, I think I was a little too harsh, maybe. Maybe it was Sunday, and I'm usually in Mass on Sunday, and I had to go to Vigil Mass on Thursday. I don't know. Maybe I was out of sorts.
Laura, you were wonderful. You responded right on. That's what we're thinking. We're so glad that somebody can voice it for us.
So you don't think I was too mean?
I just thought you were awesome.
I wasn't too mean? I wasn't too mean?
You were not too mean. That's what they need to hear. We're so sick of the name-calling that they're doing with no basis of reality for it. And you are our voice, Laura.
Well, I'm trying. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I don't like jumping on people like when they're still speaking. I don't like doing that. But in this case, you just can't let this stuff hang out there and stand. Otherwise, people who don't follow politics think, oh, well, Jeff Sessions is this kind of guy. It's ridiculous. Stay with us. A lot more. Ed Rollins up next.
Here's what people have a right to, is the expectation that if someone's going to throw out a charge, that it's substantiated. It's not just by implication. In this McCarthy way, you say, among other things that I'm quoting now, surely Sessions wouldn't try to resegregate the American armed forces in which he served. Really? Jonathan Allen, surely you wouldn't batter a child. What does that mean? Nobody
you're right, I wouldn't.
But nobody suggested he would resegregate the armed forces.
Well, Jeff Sessions has been opposed to the Voting Rights Act in the past.
Is that the same as resegregating the American armed forces?
Well,
that's a really appalling thing to say about somebody.
Wait a second. It's not that far of a cry for some people.
But has that suggestion ever come up? That's specific. We're talking
about the Attorney General of the United States.
No, we're talking about your column.
We're talking about the Attorney General.
You suggested that was even a possibility. He would resegregate the U.S. Armed Forces, and I'm asking you,
I said he wouldn't.
You are listening to the Laura Ingraham Show, 855-40-LAURA. Tucker Carlson just takes apart this Jonathan Allen from the Hill, who is trafficking in the same innuendo and out-of-context comments that they're slicing and dicing from past statements from decades ago made by Jeff Sessions. And I think Tucker, keep listening, was amazing.
And might that before you call someone racist and suggest that he has ties to, you do repeatedly, and suggest that he has ties to Stormfront and might resegregate the armed forces, you might have some facts
I have some facts.
You don't.
No, you don't have any facts. This is the way it goes. There are no facts. Let's just close this out because, again, this was one of the most heated exchanges. Next to Juan Williams and myself on Fox News Sunday, this is one of the most heated exchanges from the hatchet men on the left against the Trump pick so far. Let's listen.
He says this is the policy that he proposes, and here's why it's wrong. And instead he's endorsed by Stormfront.
He said the KKK was okay until he found out that they smoked pot.
You know, I can't.
He actually said that.
Really
he acknowledged that in a hearing, in a congressional hearing.
That Jeff Sessions is pro-KKK. Is that what you're saying?
No, what I'm saying
then what are you saying?
What I'm saying is he said that he thought they were okay.
So what he said was, I told a joke about marijuana that was a bad joke. He never said I'm for the KKK.
Well, I mean, if that's your standard.
That's his standard. I'm asking you a really simple question. Do you think he's for the KKK or not?
I don't know.
Oh, no, that was ugly. You're listening to the Laura Ingraham Show, 855-40-LAURA. Joining us now, a man who's been through these confirmation wars and knows exactly how they play out, is our old friend Ed Rollins, of course, who ran one of the most brilliant campaigns, the 1984 Reagan re-election campaign, and he joins us now. Ed, great to talk to you, my friend. Happy Monday. What do you think about the hits on these patriots like Jeff Sessions, and now he's for the KKK? He actually prosecuted the KKK and ensured in the way he did prosecute it with his priorities that the Klan member got the death penalty and what he did to this innocent young African-American man. But nevertheless, you hear the vitriol.
I was in the White House. I was the White House political director when Jeff Sessions was in the panel, along with Rudy Giuliani and Ed Meese and others. And he was an outstanding U.S. attorney. And this was 1986, and two very moderate Republicans, one of whom, Harlan Specter, who turned out to be a Democrat later in his life, and Mac Mathias joined with the Democrats to basically stop his nomination. There was nothing in his background. He had impeccable credentials, and obviously he wouldn't have been picked as a U.S. attorney if he hadn't had impeccable credentials. But this was the beginning of the turn in '86 when they went on to take out some of our work and others, and it was just a great injustice. He's a very fine man. He went back, stayed as the U.S. attorney till he got elected to state attorney general, and then to the U.S. Senate. There's nobody in the U.S. Senate today who's he served for 3 terms now who'll ever say to you that he's anything. There's never been a racist word ever come out of his mouth. And I think to a certain extent one of the great injustices was ever done. And especially after the 2 attorney generals we've just had, for anybody to basically say that he's partisan or basically anything out of the ordinary is after Eric Holder and our present attorney general is just absurd.
Yeah, who basically obstructed any federal grand jury, the prevention of a federal grand jury from being called in the Clinton investigation. Right. So we know that from what Loretta Lynch's team did. But, you know, when you think about the way they're attacking nominees today versus 1984, the 1980s, even with Bork, it's become amplified and ever more unfair and unjust because of the loosely knit left-wing groups, sometimes not so loosely knit, that they all share the same talking points. So they throw out the line, Ed, like, well, Jeff Sessions said that the KKK was okay except for the fact that they smoke pot. He was making a joke about watch the guy go out and smoke pot now. You know, it's like an offhand comment. Like, you can't get any worse. Now he's going to go out and get high or something. But it was not saying the KKK was okay. It's just preposterous.
Well, the first words out of these people's mouths is racist. They pin you to a corner, and particularly if you're from the South, you're a racist. Anything you've ever said or done, you're a racist. And this is a man who obviously there's no evidence whatsoever ever in his background that he was anything but a very fine law enforcement official and a very fine senator. Obviously, when you run 3 times for the Senate in a state like Alabama, if anything had been that had been out of the order, it would have been raised, and it never has. So, plus his colleagues adore him. I mean, there's nobody standing up there and saying this is a bad guy, but he's saying what a great guy he is, what a great choice he is. So, I just think we're going to have more and more of this as we move forward, and I think to a certain extent we just have to fight back.
Well, guys, I want my guys to cue up Nikki Haley. She was at the Federalist Society on, I guess it's Friday, Saturday. They had their big convention. It's a group of conservative lawyers for all my listeners who aren't familiar with it. So the Federalist Society hosted a number of prominent individuals. Nikki Haley, of course, the governor of South Carolina, was in to speak with Trump about a potential cabinet post. And remember, she was not a fan of Trump, and she ended up endorsing him, but she didn't campaign for him. She's more of a little bit more establishment. But nevertheless, this is what she said. Let's listen.
We must accept that Donald Trump's election was not an affirmation of the way Republicans have conducted themselves. The president-elect deserves tremendous credit for the way he was able to connect with the electorate. But he did not do it by celebrating the Republican Party. And the American people did not vote for him because he had an R next to his name. He ran against both parties, against the political system at large, a system he argued was fundamentally broken.
I think, she hit the nail on the head. I mean, a lot of us have been saying this for many years. I'm glad Governor Haley has finally kind of come along to understanding this, but this was a full frontal assault on the establishment. He ran against the Iraq War, against the U.S. as the policeman of the world, against these mega trade deals, all embraced by the GOP establishment that supported Haley.
Well, Donald Trump went out and captured the nomination of a party against some very significant people. The vast majority of principles of the party he hasn't run away from: lower taxes, smaller government, and I think to a certain extent he deserves full credit for that. I think he's picking some outstanding people here, looking at outstanding people. I like his whole approach. I like the idea we're looking at generals, 4-star generals who have extraordinary careers to run the Defense Department. We've been in a war for 15 years, and obviously the people who are on the battle line know better how to win them, if that's what we're going to do. So I think he's doing a fabulous job. He's going to get hammered. I mean, it's become very clear as you travel and I travel around or go to dinner parties in our home cities, this unpopularity is going to maintain, and people are going to continue this battle for a long period of time, no matter what he does. But I think he's just going to basically go out and appoint good people, do a very effective job, and hopefully over time the country will realize what a great leader he is.
Do you think, Ed, that he should listen to the concerns that are being raised, and they're mostly being raised on the left, that he needs to select a cabinet that looks more like America? Like if you just put a bunch of white guys in the cabinet, that opens him up to too much criticism? Or do you think he should just ignore that and that goes away once competent cabinet officials are...
Well, certainly there'll be women and there'll be minorities in the cabinet. That's just the way it always ends up, and there'll be extremely qualified people. But my sense is the president needs to pick people who serve him well and understand what he wants to do. And the truth of the matter is, you get famous after you get named. You don't need to be famous to be a cabinet officer, but quickly if you get in there and do your job, you get name ID and you move forward. What he needs are people who he's comfortable with. These are his people. The 15 cabinet agencies have a tremendous amount of authority delegated by the president. So he has to trust those people. The last thing in the world that you want is someone to go over and run an agency, someone to get on an airplane and be your Secretary of State that doesn't share your viewpoints, and you've got to basically drag them back in.
And Ed, that would apply to roles like U.S. Trade Representative. That's a really important role for someone, right, given the TPP, TTIP, all these deals that are coming up.
Absolutely, and it also means Secretary of State. You can't put a guy on a plane and have him fly around the world and represent the United States if he's not representing your points of view. So I think the way he's doing this is deliberate. I think he's picking very fine people, and I think to a certain extent these people will serve the country and serve him well.
We're talking to
all he's picked so far.
We're talking to Ed Rollins here on the Laura Ingraham Show. Of course, who ran Reagan-Bush, political consultant, worked as political director in the Reagan White House. Let's talk about that for a moment. We had Mitt Romney go in on Saturday, and he was, of all the people who criticized, I think, Trump, he's probably the most vicious, and I guess you could say it had the most impact, perhaps, and among Republicans, and it was Romney. We had others like Jeb Bush and so forth, but Romney was really, he went to his business acumen, he has no judgment, he's not qualified, he's a narcissist, a fraud, a phony. He said all those things about Trump, yet Trump brings him in. What would the thinking behind that be?
I don't know. Being perfectly honest, I mean, I have to be perfectly honest, it bothers me a little bit. I think Romney went above and beyond the pale. You can basically say, I'm not going to vote for you, I disagree with you, but he was the nominee 4 years ago. A lot of us weren't very happy about that, but we voted for him, we supported him. To not show up at the convention, to basically feel like you're the opposition leader, which he was all the way through, it bothered me immeasurably, and it would bother me if he ended. It's not my choice, obviously. I'm just a supporter of Trump and a voter. But it would bother me immeasurably if he came in the administration. I think there are a lot of qualified people who served the candidate well, and I think they would be a better choice. So,
well, and I think that
my opinion.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you, and this is the reason I try to put aside the personal stuff, because I can be fairly tough on people, but I like people as people, and yet I think the fact that he came out the way he did, and again Reagan's 10th commandment, 9th commandment, 10th commandment, whatever, 11th commandment, 11th commandment, 10th commandment.
Don't speak
don't criticize Republicans at that level, and he came out in such a personal way, really. That shows bad judgment in my mind.
Showed very bad judgment to me, and again, he was just a nominee 4 years ago. I mean, I thought he had an obligation to the party to try and pull it together, and he didn't. He was the bigged bomb thrower. So, again, it's Donald Trump's choice. He'll do what he thinks is right, but it will not make me feel better.
No. Ed, finally, as we look forward to this inauguration, Donald Trump is going to cut the number of balls, reduce the number of balls, it looks like, yet have a kind of a victory tour or Visit America tour starting on the West Coast, I think, and moving east. What do you think about that? It's kind of not a whistle stop, but do you think he's going to tour the country? I think that's a good idea, don't you?
I think it's a great idea. I think it's fabulous. I think this is a man who likes people. I think the more he's out with the public, he'll have a better understanding of where we are. I've never particularly liked the inaugural balls, and there's always too many, and you've been to them, I've been to them, and each cycle they seem to be more. And so, to me, I think this would be a far greater way of celebrating his new presidency by traveling the country and thanking those who supported him,
being with the people.
Yeah,
Ed Rollins, it's always great to have you on. Thank you so much, sir.
Anytime. Happy Thanksgiving.
All right, happy Thanksgiving. Absolutely, to you and your family. Here on the Laura Ingraham Show. Stay with us. On LifeZet.com, make sure to go to our HealthZet vertical. Medical tourism is booming for one startling reason. I wonder what that is. And the body of a cancer-ridden teen is now cryogenically preserved. Apparently you have the right to do that now. You're listening to your Healthy Radio Addiction. Tune into Hannity tonight. I will be on. Trump TMZ interview. A lot of people are surprised that Trump gave an interview to Harvey Levin. I think he's known him probably for a long time, and it's just not what you would think. Well, one of the first interviews you give post-presidency is to Harvey Levin. They actually called me at TMZ to tape something for that interview. For that, I guess they did some packages before the sit-down with Levin, but I just couldn't do it. But they've always been great to me, so TMZ doesn't bother me. It's not my cup of tea because I don't really care what the celebrities do. And you bet we're getting into the Hamilton controversy. When we drove by the Hamilton marquee on Broadway today, we drove right by it because I flew into New York. I'm here at Fox News New York Bureau, and I drove in from the airport, and we went right by Hamilton because we had to cross town. It's a long story, but Bloomberg ruined the traffic pattern in New York, so you have to cross town to get to my hotel. So we're going by the Hamilton thing, and all we did in the car is making the hissing sound. That was just. I don't want to get into it now. I want to wait till Raymond comes in, but. You know it's bad for Hamilton when Stevie Van Zandt from E Street Band is defending Pence. You know they were really ridiculous toward Mike Pence, who attended one of the Hamilton showings over the weekend. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. But Trump was interesting. He talked about Barron, and it's hard it's hard when it's not hard, I don't mean to say it that way, but when I have this with my own kids. Like, you do not want to spoil your kids. You don't want your kids to grow up with a sense of privilege. It's really hard, however, when they do grow up in privilege. How do you keep the kids grounded? How do you make sure that they don't think the world revolves around them? Because we all know, or have an example in our own lives probably, of the poor little rich kid, the kid who has everything but has no work ethic, the kid who has everything but has limited character, the kid who has everything but is lonely, the child who is rich in so many ways but poor in other ways, the most important ways. And we've all come across kids like that. And also, you remember the kids who grew up privileged but who didn't act that way. And I remember at Dartmouth, Nelson Rockefeller the Fourth, I think he was. He was a year behind me in college, and I don't remember what year he was, but I remember thinking, oh, a Rockefeller, he's going to be such a snob. He was one of the nicest guys. I think he got like a $50 a month, he got some $50 a month stipend from his family. That's all he got. He wasn't able to have a car on campus for the longest time. But Michael Rockefeller, the same way. The kids were nice kids. And I kept thinking to myself, who came from a very middle-class background, that's interesting. And you think that about the Trump kids, too. I mean, they obviously have an enormous amount of money. They've lived a very privileged life. But, take it from me as someone who's gotten to know all of them. Not Tiffany, but I know the other three. These are very down-to-earth people. They're wealthy, but they're kind, good people. That is hard to do. It's not easy to raise a child that has a good perspective on life and it has just a sense of overall character. And I always look at the way they treat people who are, whether waiters or other service people, and that tells really the story. Trump, by the way, was asked about being sent away to that New York military academy. Harvey Levin asked him about that. Let's listen.
That's a pretty extreme thing to send your kid away to upstate New York. What kind of discipline problems were you having?
Well, I was just somebody that was rebellious. And compared to what you're reading about today, this is minor stuff, but I was rebellious.
How did that rebelliousness manifest itself?
Well, I think, in class, I was a smart person, but I would be very rambunctious. I talk way out of turn.
Did you resent your dad when he sent you?
No, not at all. I understood.
Did he sit you down and say, here's why?
Well, he said, I want to shape you up.
Oh, my gosh. Okay, how many of you think it's hilarious that Trump was rambunctious in class? Okay, so now I'm not going to worry about Nico. Nico's a little rambunctious, too. Nico gets very impatient in class if things aren't snapped to. And as a mom, you want to say, hey, Nico, calm down. Don't be impatient. Can you imagine, Drew, someone being impatient, like being impatient to have things done quickly? I mean,
oh, no,
I don't know where Nico would get that from. No idea.
I have no idea where he'd get that from.
Yeah, but I say, his teacher's like, well, we love Nico. He's such a good kid, but he's very impatient, Laura. I said, well,
it's a little Nico for you.
Well, little Putin, little tyrant. But no, he's a good kid. But he does get a little bit impatient. But I say, hey, you know what he said to me over the weekend? Okay, it got really cold in Washington. It was a spectacularly beautiful day on Saturday, and I went for a run hike.
Right, and then it just dropped like 20 degrees.
What happened? My God! It went for a run hike in the woods along the Potomac.
Probably morning, early afternoon time, right?
Oh, it was awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, although my left knee has fluid on it apparently because I was going all over these stumps and roots and did something to my meniscus. But it was a great day. It was beautiful, like warm, but it was windy, and I was like, uh-oh, here comes the wind. The weather's going to change. And so then it drops like 30 degrees from the afternoon of Saturday into Sunday. So by Sunday, it rolls around. Wind, it is wind chill. It's below 30. You know, when you've had nice weather, 30 feels like 20 below. So Nico comes up to me in the afternoon because we're all watching football. Nico comes up to me in the afternoon because I was on Fox News Sunday, et cetera, and I had some meetings. Come back, we want to watch football. Nico says, I'm bored. I said, can I play a game on your phone? No. And if you're bored, go get a rake because there's a lot of leaves in the front. And then, of course, he doesn't go get a rake. And then he comes back about 15 minutes. I'm bored. Can I have a play date? I said, okay, there's a broom in the kitchen. Could you sweep off the back deck? And sure enough, it's funny. Once you suggest a rake or a broom to a 6-year-old, suddenly they find something to do. So I didn't see him for the rest of the afternoon. He was out building things outside, smashing the ball around with his brother. But that's really, when you're bored, I'm bored. Oh, what? You're bored? Are you kidding me? I can't deal with someone who's saying they're bored. Life is meant to be lived. Go live it. Go figure something out. So I don't. Anyway, we did crafts too. I'm not a crafts person. Let me just say that.
I can't see you doing any crafts, Laura.
Oh, no.
Honest with you, I don't think you have the patience for crafts.
Crafts table. Like, oh, do you have a crafts table? This is my friend said. Oh, we have a crafts room in our house. I said, what? We have a room for wrapping paper and crafts. I said, wait a second. Your house is so big that you have a room for wrapping gifts. Well, yeah, but then we use it for crafts. I said, well, what's wrong with the kitchen table for crafts? What are you talking about? You need a room for crafts. Well, then otherwise we get glue and sparkle all over the place. I said, so what? Don't you have a vacuum cleaner? I don't understand that. The people have a crafts room. Oh, Raymond just walked in. Isn't that always on time, walking right into the studio. Where's my latte? Oh, there's no latte. Great. So anyway, I'm getting off course because I'm talking about Barron and that interview about whether he's spoiled or not. And
well, Laura, since it's getting cold, though, Trump needs to start making the toboggans. Little Nico needs a toboggan now and Make America Great Again toboggan instead of that.
Yeah, that's a good idea. One of those flexible flyer Make America Great Again.
It'll help him raking it out. But yes, we can move on to Trump, admiring athletes if we need to get to the point.
Well, I'm telling you, no one messed with Nico at the Baltimore-Washington International Airport when he was strutting with that Make America Great Again hat. I was waiting for someone to say something to him. Mama Bear was right behind him. If anyone comes up to him, they're going to have to deal with me. Okay, I had my grizzly claws out, if anyone even tried it. But he was going, Trump, 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 Trump. He does this Trump, Trump, Trump. And it's just like a staccato from Nico all the time about Trump. He makes up Trump songs. It's great. I love it. All right, we have a lot to get to. 855-40-LAURA. We are going to talk more about this interview, what it reveals. We're going to hit the Hamilton cast. Can we play the sports one, too? This is kind of interesting. Trump, the athlete. Let's listen.
You are intensely a sports guy.
I've always loved playing sports, and I've always loved maybe the competition of sports. But it's been good for me. It's been really good for me, I think, in a lot of different ways. But sports to me is very important.
Has it helped you with discipline and kind of just getting things done?
Yeah, probably so. I mean, who really knows? I don't think of it in that way. I do it because I enjoy it, whether it's tennis or golf or whatever you may play. As you get older, your choices are more limited. You can't put together like 18 people on a baseball field. But I've just always loved being a sportsman or playing sports.
Well, I know from people who play golf with him, he's a terrific golfer, number one. I'm not a golf person. I shouldn't say that, because I know a lot of you are, and I'm not. I admire the patience that it requires for golf, and I really admire the skill. How you hit that little ball so accurately, I have no idea. When I hit the ball, it's like I top the ball, like I hit it like I hit a field hockey ball or a softball. I top that thing, and that thing hits a tree, it comes right back at me. It's like a cartoon character with me in golf. I'm terrible. I can hit it hard. Hey, Drew, did I tell you that time? Don't you like how I talk to you like you and I are the only ones listening? Did I tell you that time that down in the Bahamas, my kids were doing some little golf thing? They don't golf, but they just had a little putting around on the green.
Ingram's in the Bahamas golfing. I like it.
Right. So Nico and Dima are out there just hitting the ball into the hole. I don't know what it was, a little putting green, but it was part of a 18-hole golf course. My friend was trying to teach them how to hold the golf club to putt. And I went to a golf clinic, I'd say 15 years ago, about how to hold the club and all that. So I jump out of my golf cart. I'm just using it to get around at the place we're at. And I jump out of my golf club and I said, "Hey, John, how you doing?" And I grabbed and I said, "Can I try?" And the hole was about maybe 15 feet, 16 feet away. And so I grabbed the putter and I remembered how to hold it. Hit it, goes right in. dropped the club. I said, I'm done with golf.
Nice.
I dropped the club, and John looks at me and he says,
club drop.
I can't believe you just did that. And,
Nice.
and Dimitri and Nico, they're like, think Mom's like a total rock star. Because I was just like total luck. But given my other experience with golf, when I hit myself in the head with my own ball and then got 15 stitches in my forehead, in Martha's Vineyard many years ago. I mean, anything from that is an improvement. So Trump in the athletics, very interesting. We'll take a break. Raymond Arroyo's with us. The cast of Hamilton decides to lecture Mike Pence. Other celebrities now weighing in, and Pence kind of gives it the big brush off. We'll take a break. 855-40-LAURA. Especially going after the felons, the criminal aliens who are harbored by these cities. They put them in jail, then they release them, then they go on to commit more crimes. Ron in Florida, line 3. Ron's commenting on my dust up with Juan Williams yesterday on Fox News Sunday. Ronnie.
Laura, I absolutely loved how you skewered Juan Williams yesterday. I can't tell you how much we as a country appreciate you standing up a similar voice to President-elect Trump's in the fact that people like General Mattis, General Flynn, and the rest of that cabinet represent our voice, the mandate that we demanded with our vote. I just absolutely loved your way of putting it to Juan that we will not tolerate these people being denigrated for who they are with these baseless, as you put it yesterday, unsubstantiated comments about who they are with no facts. I mean, it's just intolerable. I mean,
no, it's an outrage. It's a total outrage. Ron, I appreciate it. Very quickly, Deborah, we got about 15 seconds. Deb, go ahead. Then we have David Gergen coming on.
Okay, really quick. Happy Thanksgiving. We have a lot to be thankful for.
Yep.
I thought that I think that Trump is a very authentic man. I liked it when they questioned, was his son spoiled? Was he spoiled? Of course, you get a little bit spoiled when you have parents that have money. And then the other thing I wanted to say, and it had nothing to do with this. Hello? I wanted to comment on Tom Hanks when he said that he hopes that President Trump will do such a good job that in 4 years that he will want to vote for him when he goes into the
that's cool. I don't mind. Deborah, you sound like you're calling from a toilet bowl. You got to get off the speakerphone. Love you, but you get this audio quality. Let's go to I like the whoa part. The controversial part, I guess, if you're someone who just believes that the Constitution should actually have its original meaning, not meaning that's made up by 9 unelected justices, because it's actually supposed to be an impartial arbiter of constitutional law and statutory interpretation. So I guess if that's controversial. David Gergen, I've done a lot of events with him over the years. He's worked for, 4 presidents, 3 presidents. I've lost track. Do you know he has 25 honorary degrees? I don't think I have 1 honorary degree. Whoa, 25 honorary degrees. He's he's at the Harvard Kennedy School. You watch him on CNN. They were on election night. I was at the Hilton most of the night when I wasn't at Fox and was watching some of the other coverage. It was kind of fun to watch the other coverage. Joining us now, my old friend, David Gergen. David, how are you? How you doing?
Hello, Laura. I'm glad to talk to you.
Okay, so controversial. I'm just a little, fuzzy stuffed animal. I mean, what?
You go over there and be press secretary. You're gonna, all hell's going to break loose. You know that.
Why is that?
Well, you've taken a lot of stands. You and I have, some pretty sharp disagreements, but on a lot of things we probably disagree on 6 issues out of every 4. I did agree with you, by the way, on what you just said about the Supreme Court. I think it's wrong that we've gotten to a place where you can predict what a judge is going to say based on who appointed him or her. That hardly seems like fair and impartial justice to me, but I'm old-fashioned about that.
I'm just trying to figure out why I'd be controversial. Why would I be controversial? We've had everyone from Tony Snow, who was a radio host.
You probably think I'm impossibly bland and establishmentarian and all the rest of it.
Right.
But, when you go around saying that Mexicans come here to murder and rape our people, or you say, deported immigrants attempting to reenter, maybe they should be shot, that last quote's going to get a hell of a lot of attention.
When did I say maybe they should be shot? When did I say that?
I don't know where it is. There's a somebody sent me a whole bunch of stuff from Media Matters. I don't know.
Okay, David.
You know more about them than I do, but it's
right.
17 of the worst attacks potential Trump press secretary lawyer Ingraham has made on Latinos, civil rights groups, and others.
Okay, so
you know you'll be going into the lines then. But here's what I think, Barb.
Right.
Look, I think fundamentally, the president of the United States has a right to appoint the person, or people he wants in the White House. I think that goes with the territory. And you know, in this particular case, I think that Donald Trump is entering a hugely contentious environment, and he needs somebody in that press secretary's job who is skillful at making the arguments, is very smart, and can take on the controversies and take on the incoming. Now, I do think if you did this job, you'd need a couple of deputies who are going to be doing like straight news, you know, that would be seen for that. But your role would be something different than what we've seen in other past press secretaries, and that is you're going to be the point person on issue after issue, and I think that's a legitimate role, and you know, frankly, you'd have to be very careful about who you insult. And I think you might want to go back and look at your record about what you said and things that, you know, some of the thorns that are in there. But there's no question you're one of the most articulate and I think interesting and you know, intellectually challenging person on the right, and that would give Trump. You don't want the president having to carry the load on every argument. It's
right.
Too much. He's got,
yeah.
You know, but
so,
you could carry those arguments.
Right.
In ways
well,
that
let's.
I think would be concerning.
Yeah.
Well.
I mean, I love talking about these types of inflection points in American politics because they really do illustrate a lot about where we are as a culture and as a people in politics and the media and so forth. And
right.
so you, David Gergen, who work for Reagan, you work for Clinton, you work for Nixon, correct? Am I getting that right?
Right.
Okay.
Right. Nixon, Ford.
Right. So
you forgot
do you think?
Cleveland, but that's
right. Do you think any of them, even Bill Clinton, would take something that Media Matters writes and say to a press secretary, go out there and reference Media Matters as an objective source on someone's record? Would they do that? Reagan or Bush or Nixon?
I'm not saying it, but I am saying there's a lot of stuff out there in the internet world that you would want to look through and figure out, okay, here, it's natural. You're in a combative place in the world of ideas, and you're combative. And occasionally, you're going to say things that I or others are going to find offensive, and I think you need to be sensitive to that before going in. I don't think you should go in there and say, oh well, this is I'm going to be a traditional press secretary. You're not. If you did the job, you're going to be very unconventional, but unconventional is what he's trying to do.
Yeah, I mean, what I guess I would say to that is, number one, first of all, we're just talking, this is like all hypothetical because there's nothing decided and there's nothing, I love my current life and
if you want me to
knows
come out
that.
against you, that'll probably help you a lot. So.
Yeah, I mean, I wear all of that as a badge of honor, but I think one of the things that people are so weary of in politics, and we saw it started with Bork and went on down through, is this kind of game. This slice and dice game without any context, without any understanding, without a throwaway joke line in the world of political correctness, whether we're talking at Harvard or my alma mater, Dartmouth. Political correctness has stultified free speech and free expression. So everyone's afraid to say anything. Trump comes along, he's like, I'm calling you on your you-know-what. We're sick of this political correctness. People have to be able to talk frankly. People are going to get offended by the people who say borders are irrelevant. People get offended by people who say if you're illegal and you're in the United States, you have a right to stay here. A lot of people find that really offensive to legal immigrants and offensive to the American citizenry. A lot of them are out of work. A lot of people find that offensive. But guess what? We have a big conversation. We have a big country. And the press, I would say, press secretaries aren't probably the people who have the most to answer for. I would say the establishment press, David, has a lot to answer for, given what the public views them as today, which is biased, totally in the tank for Hillary, and not impartial and neutral arbiters and presenters of the news. So I think they have an enormous amount to answer for what they got wrong in this election.
Look, the press has gotten very nasty on Trump here in recent weeks, but you have to say he got a hell of a ride, a positive ride from the press early on. There are a lot of people in this country who believe he wouldn't be president had he not been given so much attention early on. And it was outsized. It was far more than the rest of the people in the race got, and you know that. I mean, far more than Bernie got.
Mm-hmm. Well, so you think Trump would not have won?
Laura, if you go in there, I think there are continuing things that you would have to deal with that are extremely sensitive and really disturbing. There's an extremely disturbing story in the New York Times today, a front page, about the alt-right movement, gathering in Washington over the weekend, and all that sort of hail victory and that sort of thing, and the white supremacy stuff.
Alt-right movement? I don't even know what you're talking. I mean, honestly, I wasn't invited, so I don't even know what you're talking.
Well, read the story on the front page of the New York Times today. That's the kind of thing you're going to have to defend.
Birdcage.
If you're in there as press secretary.
Well, actually, again, just going back to the disparate way that various groups are treated and examined, and the reason that I think most people tuned out traditional media and most people just ignore the New York Times now, except the people in Manhattan and Boston, Washington, L.A. maybe, San Francisco. But most people just ignore the Times because they know
their subscription numbers are going off through the roof right now. You know that.
Well, I think what I'm trying to get at is there are people screaming pigs in a blanket fry like bacon who representing Black Lives Matter, and I don't think it's fair to tar all civil rights activists with that. I mean, I don't think it's fair to tie Hillary to the Communist Party because the Communist Party USA endorsed her in their newspaper. Nor do I think it's fair to tie Democrats to the cop killers
Trump has denounced the KKK, and I think the fact that they continue to support him, it's at a certain point you can't do anything about that, and you just move on.
Right. What do you think? What is the alt-left movement? Do you think in the United States today? Is the New York Times going to pursue that?
I'm not sure we have one yet, but I think the Democratic Party is developing, a strong left-wing presence, exemplified by Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders. But there was a lot of excitement out there on that side.
Well, do you think the Media Matters is part of the alt-left movement?
I don't. I'm not enough of a follower of Media Matters.
Well, you're reading from their. You're reading from their 17 things that I said thing.
I called my research assistant and said, "Send me some stuff about Laura Ingraham." I
wish I had a research assistant. Well, that's pretty good. You have a research assistant. I think you actually told me I could come to Harvard at some point and give a talk. This was years ago. I never got that invitation.
Sure. I'm a free speech guy. I think
I'll get egged.
Ought to have more people like you to challenge the orthodoxy. I think that's a good thing.
David, tell me where you think the Democrats are right now. I guess they're toying with Congressman Ellison maybe over at DNC. We got the Sanders people kind of nose out of joint. What's going on?
Well, first place, I think I'll be surprised if they put a congressman over there. I think they do need to have a full-time person. It helped that Reince Priebus was, pretty much full-time at the RNC. And he turned out to do one heck of a job. He surprised a lot of people who thought on the Hillary side that they had the ground game that was going to wipe him out, and he came back and said, I think he may have faked them out. I'm not sure. But what's going on the DNC in general is it's like any party that's lost badly. It's searching for its soul again, and there's going to be a lot of fights. And I think over time the center of gravity is going to move more to the left. Which would be unfortunate, but I think they're far better off being where Bill Clinton tried to take them, and that is center left, but not left.
How have you talked to the Clintons lately? How are they doing?
I have not. I have not tried to call them. I thought it was inappropriate to try to call her.
Yeah.
I think a lot of her friends are waiting back, and we're not. We're not. It's not that we're friends. It's just. I think she got badly hurt, so personally, and I feel sorry for her in that sense. But hey, he won the election fair and square.
What about getting rid of the Electoral College? Do you think that is something that we should do?
There are certain things in life you're just not going to change, and you can beat your head against the wall 20 times, and you're never going to get that done. I think there are far more important things to do if you're a Democrat. you've got to get beyond identity politics. You've been complaining about that. I think there's a lot of truth to the argument that the Democrats, I mean, even Obama seems to be conceding that they put so much emphasis on demography and not on ideas, not on a message. Mm-hmm. That they've got to come back with a message. How can you possibly appeal to white working class folks if you don't have a message that's really about them?
I've said this before, David, but I think, if Trump doesn't do the things, at least the big things that he said he was going to do, and the country doesn't get better, then the voters will probably throw him out of office in 4 years. I mean, the voters, I think, are very impatient at this point. They're going to throw him out.
I agree. I've been having some conversations with people about that. How impatient are they? I don't know the answer to that question.
Pretty impatient.
Does he have to produce by fall, or what if people feel he's moving in the right direction? He cares about us.
I think his honeymoon lasted about 15 seconds. I don't think there was a honeymoon. I don't think it's going to be much of a honeymoon. Right. So, well, David, I think it's always great to have you on, and say hey to all my friends at the Kennedy School. I know. Well, that'd be fun to go up and chit-chat about the media.
Whether you're press secretary or not, you should come.
Well, I'm just a mom of 3 kids. I'll come up and talk about that.
There's no question about that.
All right, David, it's great to talk to you. Thanks for joining us.
Okay. You take
All right, we'll check back with you. David Gergen from Harvard, and, of course, you watch him on CNN. We'll take a break. 855-40-LAURA, your reaction to all this, the alt-right movement. Gosh, and I wasn't invited. On the Laura Ingraham Show. All right, New York City. We're here in New York. And homeless spending surges to $1.6 billion. Mayor de Blasio, who was lecturing Donald Trump last week after he meets with Trump, spends a record amount on services as shelter numbers climb, and number of people living on the streets might be down 12%, though advocates dispute the drop. $1.6 billion. It's a record amount of money spent. But let's definitely bring in all these undocumented, because we need more indigent people in New York, more people to take care of. Last week, more than 60,650 people, including 23,800, slept in a city shelter. 23,800 children in city shelters in New York? We got a problem here at home we have to take care of. We cannot take in the rest of the world.